Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. Now for something a little bit different. I am super excited to talk with Nate Schwartz from Ripple, the research partnership for professional learning. As Ryan mentioned, as I mentioned, as we've all kind of mentioned throughout this discussion today, one of our core commitments is to help you make smarter, more strategic decisions through timely, actionable data. But we know that building the right tools is dependent upon having the right foundation, and that foundation is research. That's why we are super proud to be a new affiliate plus partner of Ripple. And over the next year, we will be deepening our collaboration with Ripple, not just to shape our own product strategy, but also to contribute back to the field by sharing what we're learning across districts and using some of the data that we have to make a meaningful difference in the field of professional learning. So we truly view this as the start of a two-way partnership. So today I'm really excited to introduce Ripple to our broader KickUp community so you can see the impact of their work firsthand. So Nate, welcome.
Thanks so much, Jeremy. I'm really glad to be here.
Awesome. Well, Nate, we have spoken for many months, but to those of you to our audience that might not be familiar with Ripple, can you talk a little bit about your background and also the origin story of Ripple? How was it formed and why does it exist?
I can, thanks. So I'm Nate Schwartz again, a senior researcher at this Research Partnership for Professional Learning, also the Director of Applied Research at the Annenberg Institute at Brown University. And I'm based in Nashville, Tennessee, actually. So I was excited to see Hamilton County, Tennessee in the mix here in the audience. Um, About 5 years ago now, a bunch of professional learning support organizations, places like Instruction Partners, TNTP, Leading Educators, Unbound Ed, all came together and started having conversations with researchers who studied teacher improvement and teacher professional learning. And what they were saying was pretty simple and straightforward. They were telling us that they were organizations that felt like they were trying to provide direct support to teachers and leaders, and reading the academic research on what it took to help teachers improve, and that research wasn't actually making them more effective at their jobs. That the questions they had about how to design better professional learning experiences for teachers weren't getting answered by the kinds of research we were doing. And so that formed the basis for Ripple, this organization that started a couple of years later, to try to figure out how can we do better, more practical research about the design decisions that you guys, districts and PL support organizations, are making around how to give teachers the best experiences possible. And we have a whole learning agenda if you go onto our website, and we'll drop this in the chat eventually. But we have a whole learning agenda thinking about things like what what are the decisions that are actually getting made? Who's making them? One of the big questions we've been asking recently is about how to give teachers more control over their own professional learning experiences while still ensuring that they can have the kind of collaborative, cohort-based experiences that I think you all are trying to give in your districts. We're actually working on this right now with both a KickUp partner and a Ripple partner, Montgomery County, Maryland. And we've been trying to run this experiment where sometimes supervisors, coaches, principals are given control over the pathways that teachers follow as they go through district-wide professional learning. And sometimes teachers are given much more opportunity to opt in themselves, which, as you can imagine, might create more agency, more engagement, more excitement about what they're doing. But it's not actually clear which is going to pay off for students in the end. And we're trying to figure this kind of thing out. So that's the work that Ripple does. And we are really excited now that we're growing more partnerships, both with districts like those on this call. And so we'll talk about the opportunities there, but also with organizations like KickUp. So one of the biggest problems for Ripple as a research organization is that we are gathering more data than ever on teacher improvement, on teacher professional learning. But my experience, and I was a previous teacher, I was a teacher actually who struggled to receive the kinds of learning opportunities that I think I needed. But we gather so much data, and it's really hard to learn from that data because it's being done differently across every district. It's being done differently in different platforms. And so what we're excited about that KickUp allows is it allows you all to think about the data that you're gathering in really comprehensive and standardized ways so that these kinds of comparisons are doable, so that you can think about What opportunities are you providing to teachers? How do those opportunities differ across school, across district, across subject area? What are people opting into and why? And then what can you learn from the trends that you're seeing? And it has felt to us at Ripple like KickUp is providing a set of opportunities that just don't exist elsewhere in the field to make sense of this data and learn from it, and then turn that back into better experiences for teachers and students.
That's super helpful, Nate. And we are also super excited to partner with you at Ripple because this has been obviously an area of interest for us, thinking about how we can use the data that we collect in ways that are going to contribute back to the field, because we do believe that we're collecting some of the most robust data on the educator experience. You mentioned that you also partner with districts. You mentioned Montgomery County. I wonder maybe if you could share a little bit more about how Ripple does partner with districts, since that is a core component of your work.
Sure. As I said, we were originally started by a group of researchers and a group of district support organizations. But that focus ended up taking us a little bit away from being able to center district level problems and challenges. And so increasingly, we've started to build up a network of districts who are working directly with us on how to improve the professional learning, not just that they are contracting out to other firms with, but that they are delivering directly themselves. One of the things that we've been looking at recently is actually the ways that spending on teacher professional learning has shifted over the past 10 to 20 years. And as you might expect, it's increased. It's increased in certain areas specifically, but what we've actually seen is the ratio of spending in what's spent internally and what's spent externally has stayed pretty similar. So about 2/3 of the money that gets spent on teacher professional learning is spent within districts. It's spent on teacher time. It's spent on salaries for teacher support staff, and making sure that that money is feeling efficiently and well spent feels like the key question that we're trying to answer. We're trying to help districts think about, does it make more sense to hire instructional coaches, to pay teachers to lead their own PLCs, to think about hybrid arrangements? Should we train the trainer? When does training the trainer work? When doesn't it? What can you do online? What do you need to do in person? And so we're playing with all these very practical design questions and asking districts, and Montgomery County has been a great partner. We have a number of others now across the country to both think about the decisions that are coming up for them and how a different kind of data or a different kind of learning or a different kind of research could help them make those decisions in ways that pay off for teachers and students. All to say, one of the things that we're looking for in terms of district partners is districts that feel like they are doing really innovative work in the professional learning space and want to study it, want to understand the impact, but also want to think about the different design decisions they're making. Second, though, our second opportunity is for districts that just want to be part of the community that is increasingly growing up. So as you mentioned, KickUp has become an affiliate of Ripple, and we have a growing set of affiliates that includes a group of districts, a group of researchers, and a group of PL organizations who are all coming together. We have an annual convening and a bunch of events across the year who are all coming together to try to learn evidence-based practice for better teacher PL. And so this includes monthly brown bag lunches and what we call coffee chats. And all of this stuff is mostly virtual, again, with one in-person meeting a year. But districts that are interested in joining and affiliating with this work can become part of it, even if they aren't yet ready to run their own studies on teacher professional learning. And so it allows you to join in with as researchers and other organizations are presenting what they're learning and just be part of the conversation.
That's great. You mentioned in describing how you work with districts, the design decisions that districts make, and this is something that district leaders, may do unconsciously, right? They might host professional learning in a certain format. They might deploy their instructional coaches in certain ways. And I think what's so exciting about Ripple is you start from the first principles of, are we getting the return on investment of the time and money that we're spending? I wonder if there's an example of maybe an unexpected design decision that a professional learning partner, that a district that you've worked with has made that maybe has led to some outsized impact, whether it comes to teacher learning or student learning?
It's a great question. I mean, we are very focused right now on teacher instructional coaching, which tends to be one of the surest ways of actually shifting what goes on in the classroom and shifting what you see in terms of how students are doing. Uh, and yet, it's also one of the more expensive ways that you can deliver teacher professional learning, right? This sort of one-on-one, one-on-a-few type of coaching looks very different than what you can do with some of the self-paced work that you were talking about at the beginning of this webinar. And so I think what we're trying to figure out right now, and what we'd love the help of anyone sort of on this webinar who's interested in helping us figure out, is how do you spread that kind of coaching and that kind of dosage that teachers need across the year in ways that feel like they have what you described as the right return on investment. And so we don't have great answers yet. I think that there are certain things that you can accomplish with async modules. There are certain things that you can accomplish with a great summer workshop, and there's certain things you can't. And when you tend to um, look at the research on teacher professional learning, it can sometimes seem a little bit more straightforward than it is. We'll say things like it should be job embedded and it should last as long as possible. And all of those things are sort of true, but it's also true that sometimes you can run a really great summer workshop and it can transform teachers' practice. And figuring out how to do that and around what topics is what we're working on right now.
That's great. I wonder if maybe to close out my section of the questions, if there's any more, I guess, vision that you would have for what you're excited about in terms of the data to dig into that KickUp collects, because so many of our district partners use different parts of our platform. Some of them use it to collect coaching, mentoring data, PLCs, more the non-evaluative professional learning, or the non-evaluative parts of our platform. Then there's the formal professional development in our learning product, and then the teacher performance data in our growth product. I wonder if you and your team have had thoughts about ways that you could harness that data to drive learnings for the field.
Absolutely. Um, I'm tempted to turn that back on your audience. I would love to know which pieces of data they're collecting feel most useful to them and which feel kind of most mysterious right now. I can tell you that with the partners that we've been talking to, um, two things are feeling increasingly clear to me. And again, all of you who are sitting in districts right now should feel free to correct me on this. But one is that we are trying, I think, as a field, pretty hard to collect data on instructional coaching and to understand how to make instructional coaching better. And for a lot of places, that looks like kind of coaching logs or something like a coaching log, where you say actually what takes place during these conversations. And my experience, and again, this is only my experience, but my experience has been that there's a lot of collection of coaching logs and not a lot of use of coaching logs to make things better. That it's it's so much data, right? There's all this qualitative stuff being written about all these conversations, and maybe they're good one-off conversations, but what that actually means about how we can better train coaches has been really hard to figure out in the districts that we are working with. And so we've been trying to figure this out in a couple of ways. We've been trying to help districts better analyze their coaching logs and make sense of them. But we're also thinking about how can you harness technology differently on this. We have released at Ripple recently kind of what we call a coaching moves framework to try to think about the different moves that coaches can make in these coaching conversations and how to capture them. But now we're trying to use data capture and AI to figure out, as we're looking at those coaching logs, which kinds of moves lead to the greatest changes in what teachers are doing and what students are learning. We're excited about that, and we're excited about the type of data that you're collecting around coaching. And then second, I think there's a simpler piece too, which is that especially in bigger districts, we see a lot of places where things are divided between the school level, the district level, the vendor level, and teachers are getting offered so many different opportunities, many of which aren't known centrally, and many of which aren't then kind of you can't figure out if you're just looking at one data source which opportunities are teachers actually picking and which are if we know that teachers, let's say secondary literacy teachers, really need more support around foundational reading skills. Are they getting that? And is it kind of happening in a haphazard way, or are they receiving what they need? And it just feels like the kind of very descriptive data that you all collect on what do teachers take and the ways that you can put that together across schools, across districts, across other vendors that you're working with will make a big difference toward making that story clearer and allowing districts to be more intentional in what they're doing.
I can confirm that we have thousands and thousands of hours of coaching logs captured in KickUp, and our district partners and our team I think we are always looking for ways to make that data more useful so that it doesn't just feel like capturing time, but it feels like something that's going to drive change and change in behavior from coaches and from teachers and ultimately for students. So that's exciting and exciting that we've, I think, invested in our dashboards functionality to be able to do that. So Nate, I think we will close there. Thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to partner with you and your team at Ripple. And I will hand it over to Anna to close us out.